Well, it's really, really nice to be here to pick up on Ross Harvey's image. I feel a bit like that, that elephant, that old bull elephant, white-haired. And I'd like to think that I've imparted, some wisdom and, environmental motivation in the Johnson clan. I don't know about that. Hard to say. But I will say that for me there's a very invigorating moment. You see, I've spent 20 years, more than 20 years, more like 30 years, on the European Commission front, in the European Parliament front, and we were trying to drive through animal welfare legislation, environmental legislation, and if you like it, this was me in a sort of civil servant political mode. Well, that phase has passed. Apart from this coincidental link, with the British government at the moment. I'm in my first father role. But that has no constitutional, nonetheless the commission which the government is about to establish, called the Constitution, Democracy and Rights Commission, decides it's going to give the first father some recognition. But why would that be? Why would that be? But I say I am humbled, because when I was on the other side of the fence, if you like, on the governmental political side of the fence, I realized how absolutely vital it was to mobilize public opinion. I can remember once when I was working in the European Parliament, but I was working also with people like Joanne Lumley and Brigitte Bardot and so on and so forth, to try and get the European Parliament and the European Council to adopt the ban on the import into this country and into all the countries, of seal skins. Seals coming from the Canadian seal hunt. And I thought it was here, it basically, the NGOs made this happen. There was one moment when, in those days, the council was meeting in the Charlemagne building, and we got a huge demonstration. I was inside the commission, but I was getting the demonstration to come so that the ministers, including the commissioner, of course, would realize, and we got them all, and the ministers met on the 13th floor of the Charlemagne, and they got helium balloons, and the balloons flew up to the top floor, and all the balloons said, "Ministers, save us." And the point is this: politicians are really susceptible to influence and to people who raise the issues, and that's why Eduardo has done such a fantastic job here on this one. But I've got to say that if you take the Conservative Party manifesto as a whole, as presented and approved by the public, you have to say the public approved it, insofar as the public was familiar with the detail. Some people were. Well, it's a really good set of proposals, not only on the animal welfare side, but on the environmental side. And it's wonderful that so soon after December the 12th, the glorious 12th, I was going to say, but that's not a good image. That's not a good image. In fact, I withdraw that undeservedly. On December the 12th, you could say that the British people, one way or another, gave their approval to a whole set of proposals on animal welfare and on the environment, and specifically, this proposal was in the thing, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. And I was proud to be associated with that absolutely brilliant letter in the Times, which came out a few weeks ago, signed by 150 people. And if, by the way, some of you were defeated by the Times paywall, it is a problem nowadays. Look at this. I'm going to read it. It's a 3-paragraph letter. I guess killing animals for trophies is indefensible and cruel. We welcome the government's proposal to ban trophy imports and exports, and urge it to implement a comprehensive ban as quickly as possible, and to work with other governments to end trophy hunting. The species targeted by trophy hunters are social, emotional, intelligent beings. Killing them to acquire personal memorabilia goes against civilized values. 2 more paragraphs. Trophy hunting has had had devastating impacts on wildlife. Hunters aim for the biggest animals, resulting in artificial selection. The industry rewards those who have killed the most animals. Fees rarely benefit local communities. And finally, Britain can help close this chapter in our history. Trophy hunting has no place in the modern world. Policymakers should work with scientists, conservationists and communities to support economic development that preserves our natural heritage. I was proud to be one of the people who signed that, and it's wonderful to have Zach here today, because Zach had the good fortune to lose his seat in Richmond, and now has time to really concentrate. Really concentrate. I'm not saying the people of Richmond. I'm not saying the people of Richmond weren't important. I have, what's the word, canvass with Zach, and of course he's held with huge respect in Richmond. But now, Zach, you're going to have more time, and if I might just, as it were, lobby you for half a second. Half a second, because you rightly said, and this letter also says, but you yourself said so, it is vital that we work with other governments. Now, in the old days, of course, I'm not going to say the good old days, far be it from me to say the good old days, but in the good old days, you could actually have a jolly good idea in England. And when I say England, of course, I mean Wales and Northern Ireland and Scotland. I mean the United Kingdom. And you could rapidly get it into UKREP, and UKREP would get it into the Commission, and the MEPs would work hard, and you had a sort of framework. So now we really have to think very hard, how do we substitute now as we go forward? Maybe we have to make sure we have a jolly good office in Brussels, we don't have to call it UKREP any longer, who will realise that we will still need those 25, 26, 27 countries. Because if, for example, on the trophy hunting thing, we really move ahead with our legislation, then we are going to have, for example, to do something about CITES, and to do something about CITES means looking at the Commission's CITES regulation, and so on and so forth. So a huge, and take another one which has come up, I happened to read last night. I didn't have better things to do, I could watch television or something. But I happened to read last night something called the CBD Zero Draft. Now, people have been talking, Zach himself mentioned the need to get to work on this climate change convention. That's one thing, but don't forget, even before the climate change convention in October in Kunming, we have the Convention on Biological Diversity. Now, everybody's been saying these two must go hand in hand, and I happen to have in my pocket a letter from the Chinese ambassador saying, please can we work together so that Kunming? Yes, Kunming leads into Beijing and so on, and leads into Glasgow. And actually, time is of the essence, because I looked at this document last night, and it said, comments on this document have to be in to the Secretariat by February the 24th. Well, that is very, very soon. And then you see that actually this wonderful document, which is about to be the output of the Kunming Convention in October, it is now being negotiated, doesn't say anything near enough about the links between climate change and nature protection. Nature protection being an absolute crucial thing. And it certainly doesn't say anything about the issues we're talking about today. So I'm just giving an example of how, as we go forward now, and let's assume we have got this one under our belt, as we go forward now, we have to say we really need to mobilize countries all the way around the world to do the same. And that also means taking the advantage, if there is anything to be said in Kunming, it means saying something there too. People have been saying very convincingly today that there is a real impact on biodiversity as a result of hunting. I've heard it. I was terribly impressed. Well, that's something which the CBD ought to recognise. Do you see what I mean? And we have a time to put that sort of thing in. And of course, it's not going to be as easy as it was, because we won't have the Commission to feed it into. We'll have to find other ways of doing it. Well, enough of that. This, for me, has been a wonderful moment. It's such a privilege to look around and see so many people from so many different organisations I've worked with over the years in so many different ways. And the one thing about being totally unattached and totally freelance and totally, as it were, insignificant in a constitutional sense is that I can actually say yes to almost anything which people put up to me. And I do put up, I do say yes, I do want to continue to be able to say yes. And for example, there's Duncan McNair, who now has another thing, and he's been talking to Zach about it, which is tremendously important, which is trying to stop British tourists going off to India and Thailand and Myanmar and helping the exploitation of the Asian elephant by participating in elephant rides and all that. So I go to Jaipur, I've just been in Jaipur, and there's poor elephants, 12 hours a day they go up and down. Just unbelievable. Anyway, enough of that, we're here to talk about trophy hunting. Thank you very much, Eduardo. Wonderful job, thank you.
And a wonderful note to end on there. Thank you very much, Stanley, and indeed to all of our speakers and distinguished guests. A couple of very quick things. Members of Parliament, those of you still here, we do have EDM 50, the cross-party EDM here, for you to sign. Please do so if you're able to. We're on the brink of, I think, a historic moment. We can't let this moment slip through our fingers, though. Remember, the other side are fighting just as hard, if not harder. Last year, the trophy hunting industry succeeded in getting the quota for critically endangered black rhinos that can be trophy hunted doubled. They've got the number of black rhinos that can be legally trophy hunted doubled. So they're fighting very hard. We need to fight harder and smarter. Thank you again.